All right, this meeting is called to order. This is welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Vallecitos Water District for Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at 5 p.m. at the district office. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. Could I ask Ivan and Leilani to lead us in the pledge?
Hand on your heart.
Hand on your heart.
Eyes on the flag.
Eyes on the flag.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good.
Thank you. Okay, next is roll call. Please indicate your attendance. And it looks like we're all here. It's the only way I could tell. Additions to the agenda, I have no proposed additions. We'll go to adoption of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Director Boyd Hodgson, seconded by Director Pennick. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Next is public comment. Persons wishing to address a matter not on the agenda may be heard at this time. Do we have anybody from the public to address something not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to presentations. Chris?
Thank you so much, President Elithar, board members. Tonight we have the winners of our annual poster contest here, two of the three winners. If Ann can give me control of the, oh yeah. Am I in a Zoom meeting now? Got it. This is our third place winner. This is Rose Tucker. She's unable to make the board meeting tonight. She's on vacation, lucky kid. But she lives up in San Elijo Hills area, and I will personally deliver her prizes. Our second place winner is Ivan Carrillo, and this is his Love Water, Save Water artwork with a lot of fantastic use of color. And lastly, our first place winner is Elani Rodriguez with her Save Water, Love Water, and this really fabulous artwork for a young lady. Third place winner is a $50 Amazon gift certificate. Second place is $75 for Ivan. And first place, Leilani, gets a $100 Amazon gift certificate. And then we also posted these images on Facebook, on social media, and had a little contest offering it up to the public to have a People's Choice winner, and Leilani also won that. So she gets a Menchie's gift card for $25 to the Menchie's over in Grand Plaza, which was nice of them to offer us, just as a fun way to get the message out and bring more focus on our artwork. These pieces of art will be included in next year's calendar, and as a reminder to the students and the parents, when I get those calendars in either November or December, I'll reach out to the students and they can get multiple copies. So their Christmas shopping, their holiday shopping is all done. They can use those calendars to give out to friends and family. So I'd like to get a chance to take a picture with the board, if the board can join me down here. Sure. And I'll give them their gift certificates. I want to get you a photo. Your certificate. snapshot of this?
No?
You're certainly welcome to. Everybody. Is there anything close where I'm happy with it? Everybody's smiling? Awesome, thank you so much.
Did he come straight from the beach?
Fourth grade, fifth grade, is that there?
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. Won't be long.
Cracks me. I told you two daughters, one's 4'11", one's 5'2", and the other one's like
Okay.
5'4".
Okay.
So,
Hey, Chris, can you just quickly just announce which three schools?
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering.
I'm fairly certain Rose Tucker is from the K through 8,
Double peak.
Double Peak?
Double Peak. And Leilani, what school?
Nob Hill?
Nob Hill. Congratulations. And Ivan, what school? Say it louder. Yeah, but which one? Oh, San
San
Marcos.
Marcos.
Good, awesome.
Very good. Congratulations.
So was it all of the elementary schools within the water district boundary that were?
Yes, absolutely.
Very good.
And we had about 42 submittals, which is a good total for us to get,
Yeah.
especially in COVID times, so happy to see that.
Well, congratulations, great job to everybody.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I just want to, if I could
Sure,
share.
go ahead.
In all the years that we've done this, I think this is the first year that a student from Nob Hill had won, and my wife is the principal in Nob Hill, and she's so proud of Leilani, so congratulations.
Fantastic. All right. Very good. Okay, are we ready for the next one?
Yeah, but do you have an intro you want to do, or? Oh, okay. So the next item on your presentation's agenda is an award we got for social media efforts. We got the San Diego Award for social media from CWEA, and now this is the statewide award. And here to present it is my good friend Soma Padra. Soma?
Hey, Soma.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Board members, can I get a picture of you all again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I delegate to like the assistant general manager to take a photo? Delegate up. Right? You know, who shows up? Yeah, why? Chris. This is for social media, so. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to climb a ladder like I do. Well, I have to say, this is really a combination effort. Alicia and Lisa, videos and social media, those are the two superstars
So
there.
we've been doing it for over a decade. I mean, when we talk about this, like, yeah, Vallecitos, we will put it in, right? So, you're very welcome.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd just like to say we really appreciate the support that CWEA gives to its member agencies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Soma.
We're proud to be here. See ya.
thank
Yes,
you.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Okay, next is consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are expected to be routine and non-controversial, to be acted upon by the board by one motion. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
Move to approve the consent calendar?
Second?
Been moved by Director Snell, seconded by Director Boyd Hodgson. Please vote. And it carries unanimously. Okay, next is item 2.1, public hearing. This is the time and place for a hearing to consider adoption of a resolution of the Vallecitos Water District approving the sewer service fees to be collected on the tax roll for Improvement District A for the fiscal year July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Union Tribune on July 5th and July 12th, 2022. The public hearing is now open. General Manager Perun, will you please provide details?
Yeah, I'd love to kick it off. Thank you, President Elitharp. So as you mentioned, this is step 2 of the 2-step process to actually collect our sewer fees for those customers that are not water district, water customers as well. So Mike Arthur is going to provide the more detailed explanation, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions. Mike?
And give me one moment as we work through technical difficulties. Just be a second. Okay. So if you remember, we were here, I believe, June 15th to just kick this off and mention the IDA. So on June 15th, we adopted a resolution which elected the sewer service fees for fiscal year 2022-2023 to be collected on the county tax roll. So what you really did is approve the methodology of collecting the property taxes. You didn't approve the actual collecting of the taxes. So then we also set the public hearing for July 20th, 2022, which is tonight. So tonight, what we're doing is first holding the public hearing, and then after that, we'll ask you to adopt the resolution that approves the collection of the sewer service fees. And then real quick, just a recap of some of the definitions and what the Improvement District A, or what we call IDA, is. So what it is, it's the sewer customers of the district that are not water customers, they're sewer-only customers. It's not a specific region within the district, it's usually on the boundaries between another agency, and it's much, because of the way that everything's set up, it's much easier for us to provide sewer and another district like VID to provide the water service for that. So because they're not a water customer of the Vallecitos Water District, the way that we can bill them is putting them on the county tax roll. And the county only charges about 10 cents to put them on the tax roll. So it saves us a lot of administrative time and cost in order to do so. So there's about 1,950 parcels that are IDA parcels. That's about 8 to 9% of our customer base. And the total amount collected is about $950,000. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, does any member of the Board of Directors have any questions for staff?
I do.
Director
So that's
Penn?
10 cents one time, once a year, annually, what is that?
10 cents per parcel, so it'd be about almost $200 one time per year.
Okay. And,
Very cost efficient for
yeah,
us.
I would say so. Have we ever done this before?
We've done this, as long as I've been here 8 years, and we've done it every year, and it's basically the same methodology every year.
Oh, and we have to reapprove it annually?
Yes, it's an annual approval, and the thing about this one that's a little bit different from rate setting in a public hearing and rate setting, we're not setting rates, these are the rates that are already established.
Oh, okay.
And the rates have been in place for the sewer, they haven't changed for 4 to 5 years.
I mean, yeah, no brainer. I got you, okay. How many individuals is, how many households is this?
It's 1,950 parcels, so it's not all single-family residents, it could be a church, it could be something else that's out there.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, does any member of the public have any questions of staff? Not seeing much public out there. All right, General Manager Perun, did you receive any written comments from the public prior to this hearing?
We have not.
Okay, there being no other persons wishing to address the board, the hearing is closed. Does any member of the Board of Directors have any further questions or discussion? I see none, so I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
Move to approve.
Second?
Been moved by Director Hernandez, seconded by Director Boyd Hodgson. Please vote. And it carries unanimously. Thank you. And I lost my computer.
Water supply.
Okay, item 3.1, scholarship contest recommendation.
Thank you, President Elatharp. So at the February 2nd board meeting, the Board of Directors approved a motion to provide scholarships to local high school seniors and then students at both Palomar College and Cal State San Marcos. The budget was $6,000 annually with a maximum of 6 scholarships offered. I put out a press release on March 2nd announcing the scholarship contest, and I contacted the counselors and emailed the counselors to get the word out to the students. The selection process included that the students would submit an application, they would submit an essay, they would submit a financial needs assessment, and then some sort of letter of recommendation from somebody else, a school administrator or mentor. The Public Awareness Policy and Personnel Committee would be competition judges and be responsible for reviewing the actual applicants. We received a total of 13 scholarship applications, and I created a matrix for the P3 committee to review, including the completeness of the application packet. Did they do everything? Where did they live? What school did they attend now? What school do they plan to attend? And then also, were they going to pursue a career in the water industry? The P3 committee reviewed the applications and found 5 applicants that they recommend to receive the scholarships. And so the real question before the board is, should we have a motion to approve 5 scholarships at $1,200 to spend the full $6,000? Or should we cap it at $1,000 and the total expense would be $5,000?
Okay, Director Hernandez.
Yes. 13 applicants and only 5 met the grade. What was the shortage on the others?
Various things. A couple of them were incomplete applications.
Ah.
They didn't meet all the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Some were not going to work in the water field at all. I think the other one was some were not even going to stay in the area. But even some were going to go out and show some of those. So I think the 2 biggest ones were incomplete applications and working in the water industry.
And, one of the other criteria was that they were in the Vallecitos Water District, so they were in an area that we service as far as what to apply for. And unfortunately, we did get 1 application. I mean, fortunately, our message made it out past our water district, but we did get 1 application from someone that was not either planning to go to Palomar or planning to go to Cal State, and who did not live in the district.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I was the one that suggested the scholarship fund, and if we have 5 worthy individuals, I'd like to expend the whole $6,000. So I move we grant them each $1,200 each.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved by Director Hernandez, seconded by
Just
Director
a quick
Boyd Hodgson.
clarification.
Go ahead.
And I'm supportive of it, but I just want to clarify for future. What does the scholarship program process, policy, what's it say about that? Does it specifically mention a $1,000 scholarship, or?
It is what was mentioned in the press release, but the budget for it was $6,000, so it's at really the board's discretion to.
So we're not setting any sort of precedent, or we can come back next year and do 6 for 1,000, or, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're setting any precedent by the proposed action.
this was a learning process for us too. You know, we had established criteria that we were looking for. And I was thrilled that we got 13 applications and the applications, the folks that applied were very accomplished students. And it was a bit heartbreaking not to be able to award a scholarship to every one of them, whether they were, you know, pursuing water or related field or theater arts, for example. You know, we had a couple of applicants that were very qualified, just not going to pursue water or a related field. And I think that was the primary barrier. But it was really amazing. You know, I've got a lot of optimism for the future reading these applications.
That's great. Well, thank you to the committee for taking this on.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, please vote. And it passes unanimously.
General Manager, point of clarification, did we want to have the students come into the next board meeting or at a future board meeting?
I would love that. Yeah, to recognize them, I think that.
If they're available and they're willing, yes.
Okay.
I don't know who would want to miss a water board meeting.
Well, remember, some of
if
these
there's
folks are going to go
prizes.
into the water field, so
Yep.
got to start training them up early.
Yeah, just looking at the Brown and Caldwell jobs listing, that list is just growing day by day. I think it's up to 8 or 9 pages, so.
Wow.
I think it behooves us to recruit at early ages.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to item 3.2, water supply conditions update.
Ann, can I get, I'm sharing, so can I get, there we go, thank you so much. So back on April 20th of 2022, the board declared a level 2 drought alert. Customers can irrigate 3 days per week, days of their own choosing through the end of October. Once we hit November, they go back to 2 days per week. An interesting article that I was able to pick up last week during the board report was that a Golden Gate Weather Service showed that since 2019, the state of California has essentially missed a whole year's worth of rain, that the amount that we received really isn't up to what we would normally get. So over a 3-year period, we lost a full year's worth of rain. Pretty disappointing. There's my graphic. The North Station Sierra Index shows values of 79% to date for the new water year, and snowpack content was basically 0. And by the end of June, almost all the automated snow sensors were showing reports of no snow. Lake Oroville at 46% of capacity, and then San Luis at 36% of capacity. And then as of July 11th, the upper basin precipitation to date was 96%, Lake Mead 27% full, and then Lake Powell 28% full. But just recently, there was articles noting that the federal government is really going to want to work with the rest of the basin states to come up with some solutions on the Colorado River. And by the time I bring this report to you next month, I'll have some additional clarification on that. But it looks like there's a mid-August deadline to come up with some efforts to make sure we don't impact both the reservoirs and their ability to generate power.
And if I can ask Chris to pause on that slide for just a second, if you can go back. It's a little troubling when you see the rainfall is almost on average 96%, but the capacity or the amount of water in the reservoirs is so low. So it kind of tells us that we need more than average rainfall to really make a difference in those reservoirs, those 2 main reservoirs along the Colorado River.
Thank you, General Manager. 3-month temperature outlook, warmer than anticipated for the San Diego area. And then I seem to have lost my rainfall slide, but it was precipitation is equal chances. And that concludes the report on water supply conditions. I'll take questions if needed.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions?
And President Eltharp, if I can add one thing, I met with the Water Authority yesterday, and they will be meeting with a bunch of other large water agencies with the governor, not this Friday, but the following Friday. And at that meeting, we may be hearing from the governor that he's going to be starting to talk about imposing restrictions. So it's ramping up. I mean, the dialogue about forced conservation is increasing.
Yeah, and just to tag on to what Chris said, the Bureau of Reclamation, I think they're indicating that they will make decisions if the seven states and Mexico and the tribes can't come up with a solution on their own. So they're going to force the issue soon here, I think.
Yeah, and the Water Authority certainly wants to avoid having the Bureau of Rec make those decisions, so they want to work with the other basin states
Absolutely.
to come up with a proposal.
It's a really dire situation, but it's a great time to point out that we have wonderful videos on our website explaining what drought level 2 means and common sense, easy things that we can all do to pitch in and do our part from our award-winning PR group.
Thank you so much, and I just reached out to your contact today with the Shees, and so Alicia uploaded the video, and hopefully they'll be able to show it.
Great. The videos really are wonderful, and a lot of people are asking, well, what does that mean? What does drought level 2 mean? And it really puts it in practical, concrete terms. Thank you.
And so Chris, what kind of feedback have you been getting?
Waterways complaints are certainly up, a little agitation, customers get frustrated with each other. That becomes apparent. But a lot of them can be resolved with just a phone call. Most people are not nefarious. They just don't really realize that their sprinklers are, hitting the street. And in fact, I think one of the ones we got really recently was, I think Lake San Marcos, the Community Development Corp has a center island as you're entering Lake San Marcos from Rancho Santa Fe. And the lady sent me the photos, and the whole street's wet on both sides, and you can tell those sprinklers are just hitting everywhere. And so I got to get after those folks. So
People have been generally supportive of drought measures.
yeah, and there's been a few phone calls, to tell you the truth, where they want more. They want
Want to do more.
a harder message. But the Water Authority is going to produce a lot of information materials. They've all got them queued up, and you will start to see them on radio, television, and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 3.3, a resolution of the Board of Directors in support of the month of June as Pride Month in the Vallecitos Water District.
So I get to go 3 in a row. So as background, the modern Pride movement began after the Stonewall riots in New York City in June of 1969. June's the nationwide month to recognize the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer questioning and plus LGBTQ plus community. The Vallecitos Water District recently implemented some enhanced efforts to support diversity and inclusion in our employee recruitment and hiring efforts. This resolution will further cement the district's commitment as an equal opportunity employer. The district prohibits discrimination against employees or applicants for employment on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, sexual identity, gender, gender expression, gender identity, national origin, ancestry, citizenship, age, marital status, physical or mental disability, medical condition, sexual orientation, genetic information, or any other basis protected by law. This draft resolution that you have was presented to the Public Awareness Personnel and Policy, the P3 Committee, on July 11th, 2022, and the P3 Committee recommended this item to be brought to the Board of Directors for consideration. And the recommendation is that the Board of Directors adopt this resolution, a resolution of the Board of Directors supporting June as Pride Month on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Thank you for reading that introduction, and I think that it's, we brought this forward from the P3 committee. It's a continuation of what we are trying to accomplish here at Vallecitos, especially in light of, we are trying to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in our hiring, in our staffing. A few months ago, we changed the employment application to recognize non-binary individuals so that they feel seen and heard. And this is a continuation of that. And I think it's just really important. We've got a lot of jobs that we need to fill in the next little while, and we want people to feel comfortable. And if that means, making sure that we are promoting ourselves as a place where folks all along the spectrum of LGBTQ+ are welcome, I think it's a necessary step, and I would request that my colleagues join in this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, well said. Any other discussion? Director Snell.
Since I've joined the board in 2014, I've spoken a lot from time to time about I want the water district to be a leader in our community, and this is yet another way that we're showing leadership. And I'm just proud of the efforts from the committee, and I'm certainly supportive. So.
Absolutely, I support this wholeheartedly.
President Eltharp, if I can add, so if the board approves the resolution, it establishes June as Pride Month. What it doesn't do is say what we're going to do when next Pride Month comes. So that's something that we'll be bringing forward probably through the committee and then through the board in the months leading up to June to see what kind of celebratory events we may want to have.
Great. Okay. All right, I'll entertain motion. Second.
So moved.
A second.
Been moved by Director Boyd Hodgson to approve the recommendation, seconded by Director Sinella. Seeing no other discussion, please vote. And it carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3.4, Professional Services Agreement, Amendment Number 1 for the Meadowlark Water Reclamation Facility Sodium Hypochlorite Conversion Project.
Yeah, so I'll kick this off, President Eltharp, and then hand it over to our engineering gurus. But the district's single largest acute hazard is at Meadowlark and the use of chlorine gas there. So we have a project approved by the board to get rid of the storage of chlorine gas and convert to a different way to produce the disinfectant product that we need. So the an agreement was awarded, and this is a talk about an amendment to that agreement, and Ryan Morgan's going to walk us through that.
Thank you, General Manager Broom. Good evening, President Eltharp, directors of the board. Pleased to be here tonight to introduce the Professional Services Agreement Amendment Number 1 for the Meadowlark Sodium Hypochlorite Conversion Project. As you may recall, currently Meadowlark uses chlorine gas for disinfectant to meet state recycled water standards. The board authorized the GM to execute a PSA, Professional Services Agreement, with Murray Smith, the consultant on this project, for $421,921, which includes design engineering and environmental services, on October 6, 2021. The project will design the conversion of the existing chlorine gas storage and injection process to a bulk storage and injection of 12.5% sodium hypochlorite solution. This removes an existing hazard at the treatment plant, and it removes additional district regulatory requirements to maintain multiple safety programs throughout the year. The project is scheduled for final design in current fiscal year 2022 and 23. During the preliminary design process, District Operations and Engineering recommended the addition of a proof of concept test to be conducted and field verify the effectiveness of adding sodium hypochlorite at the secondary effluent channel. In January 2022, the consultant submitted a draft preliminary design report, which included a work plan to conduct testing in cooperation with the district staff to confirm the effectiveness of the existing screen diffusers with sodium hypochlorite solution for the temporary and permanent conversion projects before those are both constructed. Additional details were discussed with district staff during a site visit in May. Based on district's input, the consultant proposed a scope of work to successfully conduct the proof of concept field and laboratory testing. This is in addition to the consultant's contractual scope of work. The completion of these tests prior to the completion of the design is a crucial step in confirming the successful temporary and permanent treatment process transition from chlorine gas to sodium hypochlorite. Staff requested a proposal from the consultant for this proof of concept testing on May 30th, 2022, and after internal review and revision, The time and materials scope and fee was finalized on June 29th, 2022. And the not-to-exceed fee for the proposed amendment number 1 is $74,102. Fiscal impact is located on page 151 of your board packet, and the amendment 1 is laid out. The project is early in the design phases, so the budget is essentially still on budget. The project is still on budget. It is identified in the fiscal year 2022-23 budget with a total amount of $3,885,000, and the project funding source is 100% from reclaimed water funds. With this, it is a staff recommendation that the Board of Directors authorize the General Manager to execute amendment number 1 under the current professional services agreement with Murray Smith in the amount of $74,102 for proof of concept testing for the MRF Meadowlark conversion to sodium hypochlorite project.
Okay, any questions?
I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
One, I like it. I love that we're converting to something a little safer.
A lot safer.
A lot safer. Two questions I did have, as far as savings, cost savings, from the chemicals, the chlorine that we were buying before to the sodium hypochlorite, is that what we're calling it?
It's bleach, yeah, sodium hypochlorite, yep.
Is there a cost savings as far as chemicals purchases? Do you see in the future?
The dosing of bleach solution, sodium hypochlorite solution, it actually is going to require more solution of bleach solution than it will have required of chlorine gas. So if you're looking at a cost basis, it could potentially be more, that we're going to be dosing more. We're going to be potentially spending more money on more chemicals with bleach. However, the cost driver, cost savings driver is really not a factor in this project, has not been a factor in this project,
Okay.
as it's more of a operational priority to eliminate a hazard, to reduce regulatory requirements and permitting.
Understood. So with that kind of converting to more safety, is there a savings on the insurance side because now we have eliminated this risk? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that yet, but we are looking into that. We want to talk to Aqua JPIA and say, hey, we're making this shift.
Because I'm
What
sure there was a
difference does it make?
surcharge before if we're operating with this hazardous material and now we're not.
Yeah, I assume there is, and I don't know if engineering staff has specific information in that, but those things aren't always line itemed
No, I
in
know, those are
insurance, but
in
it's
the
factored
minutia
into the
stuff.
quote, right?
Nobody likes to talk about insurance, I know.
I love it.
I'll circle back with our risk management supervisor to discuss the insurance aspect of it. I know that there are multiple training programs involved with keeping the chlorine gas process at Meadowlark. That's not insurance, obviously, but I would expect there to be some sort of correlation between the two.
Okay. No, I understand there's no cost savings. It sounds like we're spending 3.8 million, not to do, but mainly just to get rid of that hazard, be a little bit more effective.
But is it driven by regulation as well?
New facilities which start up today would not have chlorine gas. So legacy facilities, existing facilities which are currently on chlorine gas, they can convert, but there's not a regulatory agency that is forcing us to do that. It's more of an internal initiative,
We're just doing the right thing.
Risk management.
right? Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised in the near future if the regulations go a little step further and outlaw it completely, but not at this point in time.
I have two questions. One is about supply chain, because I know we've talked about that with other chemicals. And the second is if you happen to know about sort of how this could, or is this a more environmentally friendly shift that we're also doing? If you can address that, if you know.
Supply chain, over the last 2 years, we've witnessed shortages of both chlorine gas and of sodium hypochlorite. There have been shortages of both at different times. Presently, I'd have to confirm with Ed, but I don't think there's any current shortage taking place, but I'm not 100% sure of that. From an environmental standpoint, the project is going to remove an environmental hazard to the immediate operation staff, any guests at Meadowlark, and then the community around Meadowlark. So from that aspect, I think it has big environmental implications.
Yeah, thank you. It also removes Ed's opportunity to make the joke that he makes when we tour Meadowlark, that if we see him running, that we should run in the same direction.
And there's a green cloud following you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, for those of, any of the board members who have visited Meadowlark, you know the very first thing we do with you is give the safety training, right? And Ed goes through a spiel. So it's serious stuff, it's very important, and it's
That's
important that we eliminate it, so.
Have we had any spills or had any leaks at all there?
Director Sinella.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Jim. Nope, go ahead, Jim.
Or just, have we had any leaks or spills or anything?
I don't believe we've ever had
Ever?
a chlorine gas leak, no.
Okay.
It would be on the front page of the paper if we did. You'd know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just gonna ask pretty much the same question that Director Boyd Hodgson asked regarding the differences in environmental impacts. But I mean, you can just look at this picture here, and our facility is surrounded by residential homes, and we certainly want to mitigate any risk as much as possible, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, bleach is a hazardous chemical, obviously, it's bleach, but, you know, with this system, it's designed with a containment system, and it'll have several redundancies in that to protect the environment, which we're up against, but that safety hazard, as you mentioned, is the primary concern.
Yeah, Ryan, I was just wondering, for the design engineer, did they decided they needed proof of concept testing after they got into the design?
Yes, we, as part of the original design scope, we performed a sister study, kind of a, what we call a sister analysis, where we provided a technical memorandum study looking at the coliform level at Meadowlark. With the existing chlorine gas system, they actually have kind of high residuals, higher than they need to be per state regulations, but that's because of the chloroform issue that's at Meadowlark. So we wanted to dig deeper into the root cause of the coliform, and perhaps if we could treat that more efficiently and effectively, then we could lower our dosing rate in the future. And that was kind of our goal, looking at that. And then out of the preliminary design report and the sister study, we determined that we just want to be extra cautious as we are changing over a disinfection process at the wastewater treatment plant. It's a vital process for reclaimed water production. We don't want to be in a situation where we're throwing a curveball in construction when we're trying to cut over to the temporary system because, say, the existing diffuser, which we had planned on using, it's not an apples for apples comparison when you're looking at chlorine gas to bleach injection. So if it's a bit more inefficient, this testing is going to reveal all of that, and then perhaps there's better diffusers out there, better technologies that we may be able to capitalize on. So that's really the outcome of this work, is just to have a additional level of confidence as we move forward and go into construction.
Thank you.
Sure, I had one more question I just thought of. In the operations of this facility, did we have a notification requirement to the surrounding community about the gas that was being used there? Did we have to send out either an initial letter or an annual letter or anything like that?
I have to defer to AGM Gumpel.
Yes, Director Snell. So matter of fact, the treatment plant was there before any of the homes. And when we were working with the development, every home had an affidavit within their title report and also within their agreement when they purchased. They went through what the facility was, what the hazards were. And then we did a community outreach when the development, which is I think La Costa Ridge right there, developed with that community, and also La Costa Oaks, which was the two new communities. And obviously the community that's right by the headworks also, I don't recall the name of that one, where we did outreach when we were expanding the treatment plant back in 2006-07 of what the new facility is and existing facilities, and then also what they are. Because a lot of the times when homeowners came in, they were told it was a water facility and it was going to be temporary.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I'm sure Chris and his team are going to definitely share, at the appropriate time, share this good news. But I also think maybe there might be an opportunity to outreach to this immediately surrounding area with an update, just for the records.
And potentially emphasize that we are removing, making the environment safer. Do we know, because this isn't the first time that we've heard that there were some misperceptions around what this facility did in the community, if someone sells their home in the area, I don't know if we know this, but is it part of, does that affidavit travel with every title, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
And I don't believe there's any ongoing annual notification requirements. It was just to the original owners, and then it's kind of follows the title.
Thank you.
Yeah, we would notify them when we actually begin the work, the construction phase of it. They will get a notification then, as is standard with all our construction projects.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just to add though, because I spend a lot of time in this area because I have some friends that live up there, but also I represent this area. And I think there's been a really friendly partnership between the neighborhood and our facilities. So the team that's working down there has done a really good job to control odors and keep everything safe and from an operational standpoint. And so kudos to the team that works down there.
And to operate a wastewater treatment plant in that proximity to those homes is not an easy thing to do, and our crews down there are doing an amazing job.
Yep.
So that's what I was gonna ask, is Encina and other agencies, wastewater agencies, have they converted over? Do we have anybody in San Diego County area that's done this conversion recently?
So most of the chlorine gas facilities were converted over back, it started in the 90s really. So almost everything in the 90s and above converted over. Some of the largest treatment plants stayed with chlorine gas, because chlorine gas is 100% chlorine, while sodium hypochlorite or bleach is at 12.5%. So because of that bulkness of the chlorine gas, it had to. So like the huge treatment plants in LA and even San Diego. But a place like Encina, which does not produce recycled water, has no need to disinfect the water. They have to treat it to a lower level before ocean discharge.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve as presented by staff.
A second.
It's been, staff recommendation's been moved by Director Sinella, seconded by Director Boyd Hodgson. Please vote. And it carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to the next item. 3.5, project acceptance for the Meadowlark Water Reclamation Facility Biological Selector Improvement Project.
All right, this item doesn't travel far in distance or by the staff member presenting it. So we're still at Meadowlark, and it's still Ryan presenting.
All right, thank you. Continuing on with the Meadowlark improvements, we are very pleased to present the acceptance of the Biological Selector Improvement Project. As you know, Meadowlark provides recycled water for the district's existing customers, Carlsbad Municipal Water District and Olivenhain Municipal Water District. And any improvements to the tertiary process are reimbursable through recycled water rates by recycled water customers. The project originated because the existing membrane panels in the aeration basins were installed in 2007 and have exceeded their useful life. The district awarded Trussell Technologies on February 20th, 2019 to study two design alternatives. The first was just to replace the existing panels with new ceramic disc diffusers. And the second alternative was to do that exact same thing, replace existing panels with ceramic disc diffusers, but then also perform some replacements and upgrade the system with a new compressed air mixing system and process control sensors. Alternative 2 is commonly referred to as the biological selector, and it would provide additional benefits in the biological process and secondary water quality. With coordination and approval from project stakeholders, alternative number 2, the bioselector, was the preferred alternative, and the board awarded the contract to SS Mechanical for $865,390 on January 20th, 2021. Construction was determined to be substantially complete in May. During construction, there was one change order for unforeseen conditions. The change order was district initiated. And change order number 1 amounted to $13,853, or 1.6% of the original contract. The system is now fully functional, and because the plant operates on a biological process, it will take some time to dial in the bugs for the improved water quality and subsequential reduction in chemical usage. Trussell Technology prepared the design plans and technical specifications for both design improvement alternatives, and conducted special inspections and observations throughout construction, while staff produced the specifications and contract documents, self-performed engineering services during construction, provided construction management and inspection services. Fiscal impact is identified on page 154 of your board packet. It is budgeted in the fiscal year 2022-23 budget with a total amount of $1.366 million. The project funding source is 100% reclaimed water funds. The difference between alternative number 1 and alternative number 2 was $449,000, roughly $450,000. This is the amount that will be recouped through the district's recycled water rates with OMWD and Carlsbad Municipal Water District. And that is identified on your fiscal impact. And at the end of the project, we have a budget surplus of $56,337, of which that $450,000 is total reimbursable from customers. I'd just like to say this project occurred in the midst of COVID-19, the pandemic, and its successful execution is truly a testament to the coordination and perseverance of the project team members, capital facilities engineer and project manager Lito Santos, inspector Leiden Miniter, and Meadowlark treatment plant supervisor and CWA 2022 emerging leader, Matt Weiss. Special thanks truly goes out to these staff and their support staff as they supported the project throughout. And it's with this that staff recommends project acceptance and authorizing the general manager to file a notice of completion and release retention of funds to the contractor following the 60-day notice period, provided no claims are filed in conformance with the contract documents. I'll take any questions.
All right, any questions of Ryan? Director Boyd Hudson.
Thank you. Thank you for that background. And yes, congratulations. A lot of folks don't think about wastewater and water operators as first line folks, and they truly are, especially, and that was especially apparent during COVID-19. So thank you for that. I do have a question. The reimbursement from the recycled water folks, what's the time span that we hope to recover that money? And is it just a straight money in, money out, or are we charging interest, or how does that work?
That's a good question. So we're actually currently in negotiating with those recycled water rates for Carlsbad and Levine. So that's stretched out over a period of, I don't know, I'm going to say.
So mechanical equipment at wastewater treatment plants usually have a shelf life of about 10 years, but structural, like basins, have a longevity of more like 29 or 31 years. I can't remember what the number is within our capital, within our financial. So it's based on that depreciation schedule and based on what the equipment is. So each equipment will have a different depreciation schedule, and that amount will go into the reimbursement, and it'll get adjusted up with inflation.
So no big check is coming.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved to approve staff's recommendation by Director Sinella, seconded by Director Hernandez. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Good job, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 3.6, Employee Association request regarding cost of living salary adjustment.
And I'll be taking that one, President Delathorpe. So the board knows that the majority of Vallecitos employees are covered under the Employees Association, and they're subject to the Memorandum of Understanding, which is our labor agreement with staff. And within that labor agreement, one of the provisions is a cost of living adjustment or allowance every year. It takes effect the first full pay period in July, so we're heading there right now. Item 1.5 earlier on tonight's agenda actually approved that increase. There is a limitation in the MOU. It says that it'll be the San Diego Consumer Price Index, not to exceed 3%. So that's just some background information. The board's fully aware of the inflationary pressures that everyone's feeling, not just us as an agency, but our employees and the board members and the public. Inflation has been in the range of 8% for several months now. So, and that kind of puts a pressure on employees when their cost of living adjustment is limited at 3%. So several months ago, the two employee association reps, Ingrid and Dean, Ingrid's with us tonight, they came and met with me and said, hey, is there something we can do about that? We had a pretty long conversation, explored some alternatives to see what we could do. One thing I decided early on that I couldn't support as general manager is anything that would adjust the cap in the current MOU. I don't have the authority as the GM, and that would be conceived or perceived as negotiation in advance of the expiration of the MOU. So that was not an option I would support. But in conversations with Ingrid and Dean, we did explore some options, and I kind of landed on one that I think has some merit for the board's consideration. And that's to say, hey, can we look at monies that were either brought into the district as a result of the employees, or monies that were earmarked in the budget for the employees that may have gone unspent? And we identified two funding sources of that. So the first one, you may recall several months ago, we got the refund check from Aqua JPIA, $126,000. And the board directed that each staff member would get a $500 bonus and an additional $500 per employee who demonstrated they became fully vaccinated to address COVID-19 concerns in the workplace. So not all of those, and the balance of the Aqua JPIA check would go into the reserves. So not all of those, not all $126,000 was spent, so there's some remaining funds there. The other funding source that I identified was every year we budget for deferred compensation matching. So one of the benefits that we offer our employees is that the district will match up to $2,000 if the employee puts in $2,000 towards that employee's deferred compensation program. It's called the 457B program. We had, at the time we budgeted back in last fiscal year, we had 109 employees. We assumed in the budget process that each employee would take full advantage of that, so $2,000 per employee. So we budgeted $218,000. At the end of the fiscal year, we had only expended, I believe, it was $165,000 or so. So there was leftover money in that. So between those two programs, and both of those were either money that was unexpected, the Aqua JPIA, or it was money that was already earmarked towards benefiting our employees. Between the two of those, unspent is about $105,000 remaining. As of tonight's meeting, we have, I think, 105 employees. And so it's just the math works out well. So what I'm proposing to the board and putting forward for the board's consideration is that to address the high inflationary pressures that the employees are feeling, to use those two funding sources to provide a $1,000 check per employee, myself not included. I took myself out of the mix. So 104 employees would each receive a check for $1,000 to help them defray the costs of gasoline, groceries, those types of things. This would be a one-time check, very similar to what the board has done before. It's what we call non-PERSable. It doesn't go onto their earned income for retirement calculation purposes. It doesn't obligate the board to anything further beyond the one-time check. It is taxable, so the employees, if the board approved it, that would be treated as taxable income, but not reported to PERS for salary purposes. So that's what I want the board to consider. It's really carrying forward the request by the employees, but I think there's some rationale behind it. If the board wanted to consider, or the employees wanted to ask for a different cap on the COLA in the future, that should be part of the negotiation in the next MOU. And just a reminder, we just started the last year of our 4-year MOU. So the current MOU expires June 30th of 2023. So we're in that last kind of home stretch. And we will be starting our negotiations pretty short order. Rondi and Bridget have worked on a RFP to get a consultant on board to help us do some of the class and compensation studies preliminary to that, but that's kind of separate and apart from this. I want to make sure the board understands this is not a negotiation. This is not going to change the terms and conditions of the MOU. It's very similar to what the board has done with previous refunds in terms of gain sharing or sharing it with the employees. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Director Boyd Hodgson.
Thank you. So I know when we first started talking about this in the P3 committee, to my mind, and maybe I missed it, but it wasn't clear to me that there had been discussion about the alternatives, such as providing the $1,000 lump sum payment. We had understood that the MOU the request had been to lift the cap on the COLA. So my question, has there been discussion since with the association? And is it your understanding that the association is okay with this alternative that you're putting forward?
Yes, so I'll say this, there haven't been ongoing discussions, because I think that could be perceived as negotiations. The association is aware of this item. Ingrid's here tonight. She's aware before the meeting of what's being proposed. I'm sure Ingrid would be happy to speak. She's never shy. She'd probably be happy to express the Employees Association's perspective, but I was careful not to get in a back and forth with them. I didn't want it to be perceived as negotiation. The board hasn't authorized me to act on behalf for the next MOU or to change the terms of the current MOU.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you also for answering my next question, which was, I think I'd like to hear from Ingrid and hear what she has to say.
Sure.
So,
Ingrid, could you come to the microphone, please? Either one.
So as you know, this last year and a half, we've had unprecedented inflation across the board, not only for what we're purchasing and gas and rents, and it's just been such a financial burden on everybody. And we as the association know that we had already agreed upon an MOU, and that is all that we had negotiated. And we went to Glenn with a request, basically throwing ourselves at his mercy and saying, this is what's going on, we're all aware of it. Is there anything that you can do to help these employees? I said, they're suffering, we're going paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people that work for the district don't work locally, they're driving far. It's a very hardship for everybody. And so we got together and we discussed, Dean, myself, and Glenn, we discussed the different implications of raising the COLA and how that might be considered as opening up the MOU, and that would have long-term effects because that would be PERSable. And we gave Glenn the creative means to think about what could we do in a partnership to help relieve the employees of some of this financial hardship that they're going through. And Glenn was very great at participating and throwing out ideas, and we on both sides agreed that if it was possible that these funds were already earmarked, and he went back to the financial people and asked, what do we have left, what was earmarked, and this was the idea that he came up with, and we're absolutely gracious for whatever. Anything that you could do to help the employees, because like I said, this is unprecedented amounts that has not been this high in 40 years. And so anything that the board would do for us, we would be very grateful.
Thanks, Ingrid.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? Director Hernandez.
Yes, I know there's no real good solution at the moment. I just did some quick math. After filling up my Forerunner and looking under the spigot to see if gas was pouring out somewhere, because I couldn't believe the amount, I did some math. The $1,000 would even out 30 weeks of gas payments, which is not nearly enough, but it is something, and I look forward to our future negotiations to see if we can't write this. And I'm wondering, can we send a bill to the government for this foul inflation that's only temporary?
I gotta say, this isn't quite unprecedented. When I started my professional career 40 years ago, Jimmy Carter was in office and we had about 9% inflation going on at the time. So it's been a while, but it's come back to us. Any other discussion? Director Snow?
Just first off, just want to thank Ingrid and Dean both for bringing this up on behalf of all the employees. But also, I really liked what you had to say, Ingrid, when you were talking about working with management and trusting management and empowering them to kind of have some giving them some flexibility to come up with solutions and encouraging them to kind of work outside the box. And so that's all great. It shows that with that whole interaction, your whole speech, if you will, showed me that we're a very healthy organization right now. There's a lot of trust between the employees and management and hopefully the board, and I think that's just phenomenal. So the only other thing I'm going to add is I think we all know this inflation situation, bit of a crisis, if you will. The private sector is looking at this, every day. I know my company, my private sector company that I work for, recently they did basically we don't have COLA, but they basically gave all the employees a bump, if you will, an off-cycle increase. And so I know this is happening in the private sector, and unfortunately, I don't know the specifics, but the San Marcos Unified School District also just recently did something for all of their employees as well. So this is an important issue that's definitely being addressed by other agencies and within the private sector, and I think we should too. And I do like the solution that was found by our general manager and mutually agreed upon by our employees.
Great. All right, any other discussion? If not, I would make the motion to go along with General Manager Perum's proposal.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by myself, seconded by Director Sinella. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thanks for coming by, Ingrid.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay,
Is
moving
there
on.
is there a group text message, Ingrid, that do you have a group text message waiting right now? There you go.
All right.
Have a nice night.
Okay, item 3.7, discussion regarding in-person public meetings.
I'll take that, President Delatharp. So as you all know, the COVID roller coaster continues, right? We've been going in and out of it as a society and as an organization for a while. It took us a while to get there, but we went to all virtual meetings. Then we came back for, I think, 2 meetings earlier this year. Then we went right back into virtual. Then we came out of it. Now we're in person. But the trends are going up again. And I anticipate that there may be a point in time where we may be forced or strongly advised to go back into virtual meetings. So I placed this on the agenda to have discussion amongst the board to find out what we want to do. And I'm going to ask Nick to help me on this item because there's a lot of legal implications. Ann or Jonathan, do I need to do anything? I shared my screen, but. Yeah, I'm just trying to get it to show up here. It's not a whole lot of information on there, but I may have shared the wrong one, but you'll get the point. So there's a new law, AB 361, Assembly Bill 361, which kind of governs when you can go and do these virtual meetings. The typical Brown Act requirements is that you had to be physically present, and then because of the coronavirus situation and the government came up with this AB 361, and it does allow public agencies to conduct their meetings via teleconferencing or video conferencing if there's a proclaimed state of emergency. So, and to continue to do that, once you went virtual, you had to make a finding every 30 days. So our board did not do that. I think it was back in, I want to say March, April, we stopped, we didn't see the need anymore, so we stopped making those findings, and we've been back in person ever since. So, but I can envision between now and our next meeting, if the situations get much worse in the county, that I may recommend that we have our next meeting virtually. So I wanted to tee this up for the board's consideration. When we were doing these findings, the board had to make one or both of these findings that you see on the screen in front of you. You go back one, James. So either finding 1 or 2, which basically says the state of emergency continues to exist, and it does. So if you look at the government regulations, it says, it supports this concept of if our board wanted to go back to virtual or hybrid meetings, we could do so if we make the findings. The way the item was agendized tonight, you probably can't make that finding tonight. But what I can do is if the conditions so dictate, we can set up the next meeting to be virtual. And then the very first item on that agenda, which would be a virtual meeting, you'd have to make these findings at that virtual meeting. Use the word hybrid, and what hybrid could mean is that board members could choose to be here or to participate remotely. You remember before AB 361, if you wanted to participate remotely, you had to post the location, you had to allow public access to where you were participating in the meeting. It was fairly difficult. 361 allows you to circumvent that, but only if you follow the requirements of AB 361, which is making these findings and publicly noticing it. So I'm going to pause for a second and look at Nick and see if I missed anything, and he can guide us through the things that the board could do tonight and what they would have to do at the next meeting to allow this.
Thanks, Glenn. I don't think I have anything to add in terms of setting this up, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the different variations of how this could work. But I think partly it's just direction for the general manager on handling future meetings and what could happen, whether that's direction to hold the next one either virtually or hybrid, or provide authorization basically to do that based on circumstances or not, but an opportunity for the board to discuss those things.
Yeah, I would say you're basically delegating that authority to me to make that determination at subsequent meetings, whether, if I think the conditions so warrant, I would make it virtual or hybrid, set it up that way. We'd have to change the language on the meeting agenda, because we used to have all these COVID protocols and what to do with video conferencing, and now those all went away. So if I did that, we'd have to go back to the old language. So that's all I'm really looking for, is the board to say yes or no, do we want to entertain that? And then we will trust that staff will come back with the appropriate implementing actions after that.
Okay, any discussion? Director Boyd Hodgson.
I apologize if I missed it, but is the determination to go virtual or hybrid tied to any specific criterion, either by the county or the state?
Yeah, I would say right now, probably, I wouldn't want to tie it to anything in particular, and Rondi can attest to this. There's so many different rules and regulations out
Okay.
there. So every week, we're kind of scanning the horizon, see what's the latest. We're trying to piece things together from CDC and CDPH and the county and all these things. So I'd hate to tie it to one thing, because that one thing may lag behind the others. So I guess I would ask you to trust that we're doing that work. We're making that determination, what's in the best interest of public health for the board members, for staff, and for the public.
So follow-up to that is just, so you, as long as there's somebody mandates or said there's a state of an emergency, who determines that? You do, or is that from?
No, I think that's done by the state of California.
Okay, so it has to be from a.
Correct. It's basically the governor proclaimed state of emergency, which has been in existence since March 2020 and technically still has not been lifted. So that requirement has continued on. So it's just the other conditions that would need to be met. Essentially, the board would be finding that there's a risk to public health or safety, or the safety of the attendees to meet in person in a fully public meeting.
After the state has declared a state of emergency.
Yeah, so like Nick mentioned, that state of emergency has been in place for several years, but clearly we haven't been virtual for several years. But it set the conditions so that we could if we wanted to. So the good thing is that still exists. It doesn't mandate that you do virtual, but it allows you to go virtual if you make the findings.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, for like San Diego County Water Authority's model is to every month make the AB 361 finding and conduct the meetings each month as in a hybrid mode, where the board members can either attend in person or virtually. It's their choice.
Yeah, and thank you for that, President Elitharp, and that's this last slide here. The board would have to do that every 30 days. So if we did it at the next, let's say, the meeting on August 3rd or whenever it is, if I said, hey, the conditions are such that we should be virtual, we would go virtual. The very first item would be to make the findings, and then we can complete that meeting, but then every 30 days thereafter, we'd have to continue to make those findings.
Okay. And so are there any technical issues with conducting a hybrid meeting?
I don't believe so.
I mean, I believe the board conducted hybrid meetings before. Is that?
I don't know that
I
we
don't
ever
think we
had,
have.
no,
Oh,
we
no.
always had
Either
100%.
fully in
It was
person or
either
fully
or.
virtual?
It was.
Okay.
But my understanding is that you still have to have a majority of the board within the geographical boundaries of the, or not?
Not under AB 361.
Not under
That's normally the rule for the other teleconference rules, but technically not under
Because
361.
you're all free to move about the country, I guess, if you went virtual, so.
Yeah, and so just to be clear, that you're not proposing that we go to virtual meetings, you're just asking us to provide you the flexibility should the circumstances change.
Correct.
To be able to have that as an option.
Correct, and you will know by the Friday before the next meeting, when we release the agenda, it'll be clear, and I'll communicate with the board what decision that we've made, whether we're gonna be in person or virtual. I may look to each of you to say, hey, do you intend to be here or not? Remember, even if the public health guidance is still, they strongly recommend masks in public settings, but we've clearly deviated from that. But I think we're going to go stronger towards that direction, not we, the water district, but society. LA County is going to be pretty soon, if they haven't already, requiring indoor masking requirements and going back to that. San Diego County, based on, I think it's the CDC guidelines, we're in the same risk category as LA County is. Orange County is slightly better than us, all the other surrounding counties are slightly better, but we're in the same risk category as LA County is now. So if you see what's happening in LA County, I wouldn't say it's not, doesn't set precedent for us, but it's an indicator of what may be coming.
Any other discussion? What kind of direction do you need?
Yeah, just nodding of heads is fine. Just to let you know that I'll be taking this to mean that I have the authority, if I think it's the proper thing to do, to go virtual or hybrid, communicate with the board and do the posting appropriately. But don't be surprised if the next meeting or the meeting after, we go back to virtual, if conditions continue to deteriorate in the way they have been.
Okay.
So I don't need a formal vote or anything like that.
Okay.
I don't, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have a request that maybe we get a reminder, whether we are virtual or in person.
I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll send out the notice on Friday or Thursday, Friday, whatever we typically do. And then the beginning of the following week, I'll send out a reminder so you all don't show up here if we're
Yeah,
virtual.
I'm wondering about public input or public attendance. The Water Authority, through this process of conducting hybrid meetings, did not allow the public to attend in person. They could only provide input by phone.
Yeah, thank you, that's a good point. So I'll take that into two pieces. One is, you may recall, now that we're back in person, we're still kind of simulcasting via Zoom, but the meeting agenda specifically says community members watching from home aren't allowed to participate. So if you want to have your voice be heard, you have to come here or send in written comments. I think Director Elletharp, you said you want to step further. The Water Authority specifically precludes people from attending an in-person board meeting. So that may be direction that you want to give me too, to say, if we go virtual or hybrid, are we allowing, if, let's say, the virtual, virtual, I would assume that the boardroom would be closed and we'd go back to what we were doing before. If it was hybrid and some of the board members wanted to be in this room, would we want to open the doors to the public? So that would be helpful to hear that as well.
Right.
And I probably need that direction tonight, because I won't get a chance to have you all assembled as a group in a decision-making capacity before we post the next agenda. So if you want to preclude public attendance, if we go virtual, I'd need to hear that tonight.
Yeah, I think I would tend toward that just for public safety.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear from everybody else.
No, I agree.
So that if we go hybrid, no public allowed. Board members, staff, okay, public, no.
What's the driver for hybrid? It seems to me if we find that the conditions are such that it's unsafe to meet in person, why don't we just keep it the way we've been doing it, where it's either we're meeting all in person or we're meeting virtually? But it seems to me if we find that it is necessary to have that virtual option, we should go ahead and just err on the side of caution and not open up the facility for a board meeting.
Yeah, that's perfectly acceptable direction. The reason I threw it out there is because many other agencies are allowing hybrid opportunities. I just wanted the board to be aware that's an option for you. If you want to do, AB 361 would allow that. But your point is well taken. If we think it's a public health risk, then there's a public health risk.
And just to add to that, there are a couple of drivers sometimes for the hybrid. One is reducing just simply the number of people in the room potentially. So, and then the second is to provide flexibility we've had a number of situations where a client board or city council, someone's come down with COVID at the last minute, a day or two before the meeting. And if it's not been noticed and set up as an EB 361 hybrid meeting, and it's fully in person, they may not be able to participate. So it kind of provides the flexibility for a board member who might have been planning to participate in person and be here with everyone in the room to participate from home, sort of at the last minute if something comes up.
Good point.
So in addition to communicate with the board, I'll continue the conversation with Best and Krieger to make sure we're following all the appropriate rules for those.
So I have a clarifying question, because I think that's an excellent point. I agree with you, Director Sinella. I think it's intellectually consistent to, if there is a public health risk, that no one is here, because we don't want to put ourselves at risk, we don't want to put the staff at risk, we don't want to put the public at risk. But if we do decide to make it hybrid, is it hybrid just sort of optional all the time, so that there's the opportunity that if someone does get sick at the last minute, they can attend, even if we're still all, they can attend virtually, even if we're all still meeting in person? I'm sorry, I'm just not following how that works. I think it's an excellent idea, and it's an excellent point. I'm just not sure how it would work.
That's ultimately a decision by the board, and
Okay.
different boards have come down in different places on that. Some are sort of extending the sort of hybrid model for as long as they can. Other boards are really embracing being fully in person and kind of going back to this model of being in person with the public and with the board. So it's ultimately up to the board. Obviously, it depends a little bit on making sure that the 361 findings can be met, but if they can, it's a little bit in the discretion of the board, given the public health decisions, what type of system you want going forward.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it could be an ongoing discussion of the board.
Okay.
Okay, do you need anything else from us?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Yep, stay tuned.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item 3.8, San Marcos Chamber of Commerce Meet Your Elected Officials Business Mixer per diem expense reimbursement approval.
All right, I'll take that item too. So you may recall ordinance 216, the business of the board, it kind of indicates which meetings are compensable through per diems. This upcoming event, the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce Meet Your Elected Officials event, it specifically says it's not compensable unless the board makes a decision otherwise. So this is the opportunity, if any members want to go and would like to be compensated for per diem for the event, we would need to get pre-approval. That's what the ordinance says. You have to be pre-approved for per diem before the event. So that's all it is. And I don't have the item in front of me. I forget the date of the item. Ann, do you remember?
July 28th.
July 28th.
So let me
Okay.
know soon.
Yeah, so that's all. Just if anybody wants to go, or just a blanket, if someone wants to go, they're eligible for reimburse or for per diem and then expenses.
Director Hernandez?
I think in the past, we've always approved that this could be a per diem item.
Ann, do you remember the history of how often?
I think generally it's,
Yeah.
I think,
remember off the top of my head.
yeah, I seem to recall we've even had discussions in prior years about just making it just a permanent, taking it off having to, discuss it and approve it every single year and just put it on the list. But I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I feel like we've had that conversation before.
Well, we'll be taking ordinance 216 back to the P3 committee at the next P3 meeting, and then it'll be coming back to the board, so you'll get a chance to take a whack at that piñata again.
Way overdue. Just my 2 cents on this, I'm gonna attend, regardless if it's per diem or not. I've supported this in the past, and under my thought process of being a leader in the community, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is, the Chamber of Commerce of San Marcos is certainly an organization that is connected to our business community, our residents, and as elected leaders and as the water and wastewater provider for our community, we should be at these types of events. We should be representing. And with that time and commitment and representation, I feel it's reasonable to have the per diem. I won't be heartbroken if it's not. I can go either way, but I certainly am leaning towards supporting it.
Yeah, I would just say I would support it as well. I think I've attended this probably 4 or 5 years out of the 8 that I've been here, and I find it useful and necessary for community interaction. So I would support that as well.
Move to approve.
And if I can get clarification, is that for the per diem and for expenses associated with it? Or just per diem? Because, you know, expenses is the pay for the registration, mileage, parking, all those associated things, but I just would like clarification, so.
I think we've approved both in the past.
I believe we have, and it's consistent with, you'd be treating it like you'd be treating other reimbursable things.
Is there a registration fee, or is it just a,
I believe there is.
I think it's just a, I don't think there's a registration fee.
Is this the one where you can buy a table for a certain amount and?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. You just show up.
Yeah.
You just show up.
I think you just show up, and
So we don't need to get into specifics. If you just say blanketly per diem and expenses, that's good enough, and then we know what all the
because that would
expenses
make a decision. I mean, I would say just keep it simple and just do per diem and not expenses.
are. That's fair too, yeah.
So
I would move to approve the per diem and expenses.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
I'd like to ensure that we are recognized. The last couple of events that we have been to with the city and the chamber, some of us are recognized, not all of us, not all the time. And if this is a meet your elected officials event, I'm wondering if maybe we need to send a list with all of our names so that we can ensure that,
So I can
that we're recognized.
I can guarantee that we can send a list of who's going. I can't guarantee that they'll
I
recognize.
think every time I've attended, they've acknowledged everybody individually.
At this event, I think they've been better, but to Director Boyd Hodgson's
Yeah,
point,
exactly.
The last one at the university,
Yep.
I don't think they recognized anybody from the water district, but also, there was a number of city council members in the audience that were not recognized as well. Not from San Marcos, but from the North County region.
Yep.
I think it was just a blanket, you know, they recognized the district but not individuals.
Right.
I'll second.
Okay.
I think I already did.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
third.
So if there's no other discussion, then please vote.
Can I get a clarification?
Sure.
So it's per diem and expenses?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes. And it passes 4-1.
I'm gonna have to leave the meeting.
Okay.
All right, folks.
See, Jim.
Okay, that's the end of our action items, so we move on to reports and general manager.
The only thing to report is I'm glad to be back after my vacation, and referring back to the item with the Employees Association request, I'd like to report that I spent over $1,800 in gasoline on my trip, so.
Not hard to do.
Yeah, it was expensive. That's all I have.
Okay, District Legal Counsel.
Thank you, President Elitharp. So our office is tracking a number of Brown Act amendment bills that would update some of the teleconferencing provisions, similar to what we were talking about earlier with AB 361. One of those bills, AB 1944, which was sort of like the simple, straightforward one, ended up dying in the legislature. There's still one that is moving forward that would provide greater flexibility to use teleconferencing for board members without complying with the agenda listing requirement of your location and making the public available to attend from that location, et cetera. However, it's quite a cumbersome bill, and it would create quite a process for board members to be able to do that and for the district to administer that teleconferencing option. So it's a bill that the League of California Cities and the California CSDA, Special Districts Association, has been skeptical of and is trying to get it more simplified and changes to make it easier to use teleconferencing without it being too overly cumbersome on the district and administrative staff in order to do that. So it is a bill that we'll continue to track. We're getting down to the last few weeks in the legislative session, so we'll let you know if that one does end up passing or not, and what the updates are in terms of teleconferencing options that would be available next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is San Diego County Water Authority. The board had its June meeting on June 23rd. The dominant item of discussion there was the adoption of the Water Authority's rates and charges for calendar year 2023, and I think we've already been over those through our budget process. So, and July's regularly scheduled board meeting is next week on the 28th, and I'll leave it at that. And so next is Encino Wastewater Authority.
Yeah, the Policy and Finance, can I pull my notes up here? Policy and Finance Committee met on July 12th. It was a relatively light agenda. Really the only big item we had was that we had an update and a briefing on appropriating the funds for the upcoming fiscal year for operating and capital program budgets. And the consensus from the committee was to support the staff's presentation on that and send it to the full board.
Okay, thank you. Next is standing committees.
The P3 committee met earlier this month, and we approved the scholarship awardees tonight, which I am thrilled about. You know, it's such an honor to serve in this role and be able to help young people move into studying water. And I think that this, I hope this is something that Vallecitos can continue. It'll make a difference in a lot of kids' lives.
I hope so. Any other standing committees? That was it. Directors' reports on meetings, conferences, or seminars attended. Director Sanoa.
I just yesterday went to the Council of Water Utilities San Diego County chapters breakfast that they hold. It was in a new location this time. It was at the Marriott Courtyard down off of Spectrum. And our guest speaker was Christopher Toll, and he was from the California Data Collaborative, and his topic was the role of data in water use efficiency. And he and his firm, I think, partner with the Water Authority and also some of their water agencies, and they provide kind of data analytics for those agencies. And it was interesting. Obviously, I think the desire to understand and then implement plans based off of data has become more and more over recent years, and I'm glad to see that the water industries locally or agencies are getting accessing his and his firm's talents. It was interesting. One of the statistics he pointed out was that from, I guess, studies. And he didn't really go into specifics where the data came from for this, but he said that the energy sector was probably about a decade ahead of the water industry when it came to really the use of data in driving decisions and making plans for the future and helping to push water efficiency. So I'm glad that we're hopefully moving towards catching up.
Absolutely. Any other conferences?
So I appeared on the podcast Sustainable Urban Network. We recorded it last week, and it's going to air at 3 p.m. on KNSJ 89.1 FM. The topic was water and environmental justice, and it was it was a lot of fun appearing on that. Sonia Robinson does a great job interviewing folks, but the topic was environmental justice, Sustainable Urban Network, 3 p.m. on Saturday, KNSJ 89.1 FM. And we talked a lot about water and access to water and how it interrelates to quality of life for BIPOC communities, and just how necessary it is to make sure that we all have access to clean water from health perspectives, hygiene, to just, enabling folks to thrive.
Okay, thank you. Nothing else, okay. Moving on to meetings. Is there information in the packet? No, okay. We'll skip meetings. Moving on to 6.1, director's comments, future agenda items. Anybody? No?
maybe if I should have probably said this in my GM report, but just want to let the board know that at the next meeting on August 3rd, we'll probably be bringing forward something on the cost of service study for water and water rates. So it'll be a big item.
Okay. Okay, seeing no,
I guess I do have
Oh,
one.
go ahead.
Tomorrow I'm gonna attend the GPAC meeting, and the only thing that we're gonna bring up, or one of the big things we're gonna bring up is our Hillside
right,
project. Currently, that's zoned for 20 units per acre, and we'd like to, discuss moving that up to the 45 per acre based on, and it's been enlightening being at these meetings.
Yeah.
Talking about different points of interest in it, being along sprinter lines and public transportation, and that would provide a great service, I think, to the city if we can get larger amounts of units right there next to schools, housing, retail outlets, along the public transportation lines. So I don't think we'll have a problem with that. I know we've got Rick on our side, and he's a great proponent, but it's been enlightening, it's been good, and I think we're all moving in the same direction with, the city council, with the consultant. It's been fabulous
good.
in trying to pull us all together, so.
I'm looking forward to an update on the
Yeah, and
whole
I think
process.
we have something we can add to that as far as an agency and as far as a district, because we have that parcel of land that we want to develop, and I think it'll help long-term with our water rates as well as just, helping within the city. So that's the only thing we're gonna do tomorrow at the GPAC meeting.
Good.
Is that committee gonna meet soon?
So you're talking to our ad hoc committee,
Yeah.
or GPEC? So after tomorrow's meeting, I'll get in touch with Rick and Director Pennick and find out what happened at the GPEC, and then we'll probably gear something up to reconstitute or bring back together the ad hoc committee. And then eventually we'll be coming back to the board, because there's been a lot of activity on our property, not so much through the GPEC, but just behind the scenes. And the rest of the board probably needs to be brought up to speed as to where we're at.
It's been quite a while.
It has been.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, any other directors' comments? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Good job.